The whole numbers, but now you are going to learn about integers, and what integers are we will find out in this video. Okay, let's move on. So what is an integer? And integers are the whole numbers and their opposites, the same whole numbers you guys are used to. Now we are also learning their opposites. What do we mean by that? So what do we mean by opposites? Opposites are two integers that are the same distance from zero in either the positive or negative direction on the number line. Let's take a look at an example here. So here we have 3, positive 3 and negative 3 on the number line. Right? Let's take. So here we have negative 3 and positive 3. Those two are called opposite because they are the same distance from 0. 0 is right here. Positive 3 is 1, 2, 3 units in the positive direction. And here we have negative 3. It's also 1, 2, 3 units, but in the negative direction. So those two numbers will be called opposites. So what does this mean? This means that the positive integers are all the whole numbers greater than 0. That means they are on the right side of 0. So if you look, the arrow is pointing to the right. Here's 0 right here, or starting point, and any number on the right of 0 will be called a positive integer. And negative integers are all the opposite of the whole numbers. Once again, remember that integers only include whole numbers, not decimals, not fractions. Those are called a different type of number that we will study on later on. Okay, so negative numbers are less than 0. That means they are on the left hand side of 0. Remember, positive integers are on the right side of 0, and negative integers are in the opposite direction on the left side of 0. Let's look at some examples of opposites. So here we have negative 4 and positive 4. Those two are called opposites. Once a number is opposite, when we add them together, they will actually cancel each other out. And here we have negative 2 on the number line and positive 2 on the number line, and these two integers are opposite because they are the same units away from 0. For example, negative 2 is 1, 2 units away from 0, and positive 2 is 1, 2 units away from 0. And negative 5 and positive 5, once again, same distance away from 0. Now, when do we actually use these integers? You guys are always asking, when am I ever going to say this? When am I ever going to use this in the real world? Well, and they use integers all the time in the real world. So let's take a look at some examples. So Sarah went up 4 steps. So to represent this situation mathematically, we will put plus 4. Why are we using plus 4? Because she went up the steps. So she's going up, so she's going in a positive direction. So we will use plus 4. Okay, let's highlight. So once again, keyword here is she's going up 4 units. So since she's going up is positive, so that will be represented by +4. Also here we have the temperature is 12 below 0. So we all here, I know down here in Miami that doesn't happen, okay, but up north it does happen in Canada. So here we have the temperature is 12 below 0. So since it is below 0, it is in the opposite direction. So we'll represent it with -12 because it is away from 0. So if, let's say right here we have the thermometer, let's say this is 0, but it's below 0. It's 12 below 0. So we have to make sure we put a negative to let people know that it's not 12 above 0, it's below. So we have to represent it with the negative integer. Okay. And the next example we have here is the elevation of the mountain is 52,000 feet. So if it is an elevation, that means how far it is above sea level. So this mountain is actually 52,000 feet above sea level. So we will represent it with a positive integer. Okay. So and then here's a few more examples. I know you boys love sports. The football team lost 8 yards. That means they will be at -8. Okay. And gained 10 pounds. So since she gained 10 pounds, so she's adding more pounds. So that will be a positive integer, +10. And then we have Tara spent $20 of her checking account. So she's not putting in money, she's spending it. So that means she's taking the money out. So we will represent that by a negative integer. Okay, so go ahead and try these by yourselves. The stock market showed a gain of 212 points today. Death Valley, California is 282 feet below sea level. The elevator went down 2 floors. Go ahead and try to represent these with an integer, with a numerical value, and then pause and then come back and check. Alright, so welcome back. So here it is. Here are the answers. Once again, below sea level, that will be a negative. And went down 2 floors, that will also be a negative. Alright, so now we're going to talk about absolute value. Now, absolute value is the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. Similar to when we're talking about opposites, but now we are talking just about a number. So here, for example, we have -3. Okay, how far away is -3 from 0? Once again, we can count the units. 1, 2, 3 units. 1, 2, 3. So -3 is 3 units away from 0. And that is called the absolute value. So the absolute value of -3 will actually be +3. So how do we represent? We know math is all about symbols, so we don't have time to write absolute value all the time. So of course we are going to use symbols, and we use 2 bars on either side of the integer to represent the absolute value. So whenever you see an integer inside 2 bars, they're asking you to find its distance from 0. So absolute value of -4 will be +4 because -4 is 4 units away from 0. So basically the absolute value of a number is really just a number without a sign, or neither a negative nor positive. Since we're talking about the distance and we cannot have negative distance, so we will always get a positive answer or 0. Now let's pay attention to the next slide. That one will be a little different. Now, unless if we have a negative sign on the outside of the absolute value bars, then our answer will be different. What do I mean by that? So this is actually negative. In front of this bar right here, there's a 1. And remember I said whenever there is no operations between any number, it means to multiply. So this is actually -1 times the absolute value of -4. So absolute value of -4 is 4 times -1, and our answer will be -4. So whenever there's a negative sign on the outside of the bar, we want to leave it there. Okay, so we get the absolute value of -4, which we will get is +4, but then we have to keep the negative in the front because technically we are multiplying by -1. Okay, so here are some examples. Absolute value of +9, that will be 9. It's not likely that you will find a positive integers written with the plus sign. Okay, so usually this will be written as absolute value of 9. Of course, if there's no symbol in front of it, it is positive. We do not start counting by saying +1, +2, +3. We know these numbers are +3. We know that these numbers are positive, so we just say 1, 2, and 3. So same thing here, you will not see this little plus here in most cases. Alright, so the next example, so we have the absolute value of -3. Of course that would be 3, because -3, if we were to draw the number line, if we were to draw the number line right here, bear with me, 0 right here, and here we have -1, -2, and -3. How far away is -3 from 0? Once again, how many units? 1, 2, 3. 3 units. So our answer will be +3. Okay, so go ahead and try these. Pause before you get the answer. I'll be waiting. Alright, now welcome back. So here are the answers. Absolute value of -4, that will be +4. Absolute value, so here we have negative times the absolute value of -2, which will be absolute value of -2 is 2, and then we bring down the negative, so that will be -2. Please be very careful with this one. And number 3, absolute value of 5, of course, is 5. 5 is 5 units away from 0. And absolute value of -10, that will be +10, because -10 is 10 units away from 0. It just means it's away on the negative side. Okay, and hopefully you guys remember to take notes. We watch the video if you have any questions, and write down a question for your team for the next day. Okay, that's it. You guys have a great